Do people in Canada have cable, like other people?
We keep this up in the playoffs. I don't care.
And at Chili's. Is it a Chili's? At Kyle's?
Achilles.
Finally.
You don't know that?
Fuck you! Get this guy the fuck out of here!
Alright, well, coming in at number 5, I got Anthony Stolars.
Now! Jets are winning the cup!
Thank you for watching and listening. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode number 77 of the NORDCAST. It is Tuesday, October 29th, 2024, and it is a spooky special for you guys. All right, I am your host here, Nordic, joined with Kata. Carter, how we doing?
The depression has started.
The depression has
Don't
started.
you dare talk about depression when you guys went on like a 8-game win streak. Don't you dare. Don't you dare.
This was the year we were going to go 82-0, Seth.
Really, we've been on a 5-game losing streak, and we're currently tied with the fucking Wild. Like, come on.
A lot of good this year, though. No Jack joining us for, I think it's the 6th straight episode. He's been very busy with college.
God, you need to fire him.
Yeah, he has not made an episode since September 18th. And you can already tell that we have a third guest joining us today. It is actually his 4th time joining us on the show, and he's in a new house. It is Seth Chason, the big Penguins fan who's joined us a couple times. Seth, how are you?
Man, you know, the Penguins make me want to die. It's just, other than that, I'm doing good. Just finished up call-in soccer season for Hartford, and finished off with a bang with the radio broadcast. Game of the year, hands down. But I've been good. I've been trying to stay busy.
Awesome. All right, so for the people who don't know you, the longtime listeners probably do, but, kind of introduce yourself a little bit, talk about what you do, like how you became a Penguins fan, kind of who you are, basically.
So my parents like to say I was dropped on my head as a kid, and that's why I'm a Penguins fan. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. But I've been a longtime Penguins fan, born and raised in Maryland. So a dime a dozen here in the state. But I am a radio broadcaster and sports broadcaster for Hartford Community College. I do play-by-play for soccer and lacrosse. And I have 2 radio shows over on 91.1 WHFC. So trying to stay busy in that radio field.
Yeah, Seth has joined us multiple times and talked about that. If you want to go listen to the previous episodes, I will probably link them down below. I know the last one he was on was episode number 49. So it's been about 30 episodes since the guy's been on. So we thought we'd bring him on here to kind of talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins, who, as Seth mentioned at the beginning of this episode, are currently on a 5-game losing streak, and there are not a lot of good things to talk about with the Pittsburgh Penguins. But first off, Seth, tonight they're playing the Minnesota Wild at the time of recording of this podcast, and it is likely former goalie Marc-Andre Fleury's last game with or playing against the Penguins in Pittsburgh. So, Seth, how does that feel to you? Do you feel old? Do you feel
It hurts.
sad?
Dude, this guy has been around the league for a long time. And, obviously with guys like that, no one hates Fleury. If you hate Fleury, there's a problem with you. Fleury is just an all-around good guy. And I'm happy to see him, retire and be with his family. But it just hurts to see him move on. I'd love to see the Penguins, and it's not going to happen, but I'd love to see the Penguins try to reacquire him via trade. Obviously the goaltending has been an issue for our team, but I mean, Flower, just a class act. Everyone loves him, and it was a nice moment seeing the applause and the love that people in Pittsburgh have for him still.
Yeah, you love Fleury. No matter who you are, you got to be honest. I mean, unless if you're a Detroit Red Wings fan, a Predators fan, a Sharks.
I wouldn't even say a Predators fan, because it was Murray during that series.
Yeah. So
God, that guy
honestly,
fell off.
Yeah, you can't help but love Marc-Andre Fleury, no matter what fan you are of any team. But going to the Pittsburgh Penguins overall, Penguins have lost 5 in a row, as you said. They just went on this Western Conference Canada road trip, and they went, I think, 0-3-1. They started off with a 6-3 loss against Winnipeg, a 4-3 overtime loss against Calgary, a shutout against the Oilers 4-0, and then they ended up losing a close one 4-3 against Vancouver. So, Seth, first off, a lot of those games were at 10 p.m., later games for the Penguins. So I wouldn't be surprised if you, as a East Coast person, weren't watching those, because I know I wasn't. But so far through the season, going even like outside of that road trip, like overall through the couple of games they played, what are your kind of feelings so far? Are you upset? Are you really upset? Are you angry? Notice how I'm using negative terms there.
Yeah.
Like, how are you feeling so far to start this year?
I mean, look, I didn't have high expectations for this team to begin with. I mean, let's be real here. But it hurts because, we've been so successful for so long that, like, I've been pampered as a Penguins fan. But, I mean, Crosby's not producing at the level that we know he can. I mean, he's got 2 points right now at time of recording. Malkin's been a great story. He's been playing pretty well. Tristan Jarry is a terrorist. He is part of ISIS. He needs to be shot into the sun. He's garbage. It started last season where he just shit the bed at the end of the year, and Ned came in and took the crease. And I mean, it's horrible. Like, it's horrible that I'm saying that about him, and I really do feel bad. Like, he's in a slump, but like, Yoel Blomqvist is NHL ready, whether he's a backup or a starter. He's a good storyline coming into this season. Carlson just doesn't seem like he cares. Letang is turning the puck over left and right. The bottom six is actually very surprising. Lars Eller having himself a season. I mean, it's kind of like I kind of expected us to be this bad. But something needs to change. If we want to, continue to try to win, Kyle Dubas needs to do something. We can't wait till the trade deadline when we're already way out of playoff contention. If his goal is to become a contender for the Cup this year with the team that we have, something needs to be done. Get that $5.3 million that terrorist is being paid, and send him to the sun. I don't care, but it's just. All rounds, I mean, it's not surprising. It's not like I'm upset. I wish we were doing better, but it's not surprising.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really not surprised either. I had Pittsburgh outside of the playoffs. I actually had them 6th in the Metro, I believe. So, honestly, I figured that they would definitely miss, but I didn't think they would start off this bad, and Tristan Jarry would especially be this bad. So, since we last recorded our last episode, me and Carter did touch base on Jarry a little bit in episode 76. If you haven't listened to that, go listen. But since then, Tristan Jarry's been sent down to the AHL on a conditioning stint. So, he didn't go through waivers. He's going down on a conditioning stint, which I think is a 2-week thing.
I believe it's 2 weeks or 10 days, one of the two.
I think it might be 10 days, but it's around that time frame, playing some games down there, kind of trying to rejuvenate his game a little bit. And maybe it will go that way. And maybe he plays better in the AHL, and maybe Pittsburgh will bring him back up, play him a couple of games. But, you just seem like in a really bad spot because you signed Jarry in the offseason to this 5-year, $5.3 million deal. And now you find yourselves in this hole literally when this deal started. I believe the deal started this year. I can fact check.
It was last year. Last year was the first year for it.
Oh, okay. So you signed
his second year of his contract.
Yeah, so you signed him 2 years ago to this contract, and you're seeing him not even playing. He's playing games in the AHL, which is pretty abysmal. So,
now I will say, looking at some of the contracts that have been signed by goalies in the last year, right? It's not the worst contract. Because, look, I still believe Jarry has it in him. He's 29, but I don't think it's going to be with the Penguins. We already have Ned, who has shown to be capable of starting, and then Blom, who has been let down by our defense. Had like 33 saves in the game against the Oilers before they even scored a goal. But I mean, Jarry, like I feel bad for him, I do. But in my current mindset, he's a terrorist and he needs to be sent off the team.
Okay, so I feel like we've asked you this question before. We probably have when we had you on a couple months back. But if you were thinking, I don't know how you thought a few months ago, because I probably should have listened to the episode. I should have been more prepared. But how are you feeling about the coaching staff right now? Are you feeling good about Todd Reardon being out and there's someone new taking over the power play?
Yeah,
Do you
I believe it's David Quinn, right? Is the new coach, assistant coach?
So. Yeah.
So I love Mike Sullivan. Don't get me wrong. I like Mike Sullivan. I'm a Mike supporter. He's a great coach, but I think he's lost control of the room. And when you've got 4 Hall of Famers on that power play and you can't score a goddamn power play goal, there's an issue. And, Todd Reardon was horrible. David Quinn, it's a slight improvement, but like you should be scoring every single power play with Crosby, Malkin, Letang, and Carlson all on that power play. Now, you can definitely see the differences in their power play in that they used to just pass. Now they're shooting a little bit more. Pucks are starting to go on net. And even that second power play with Valtteri Puustinen, who actually just scored his first of the season tonight. My dumbass benched him in fantasy over some other players. I'm pissed at myself. But, the secondary power play unit's looking decent. But I think give Mike Sullivan till the trade deadline. And if we're not at least a little bit better, a little bit closer to a playoff picture, then someone else needs to fill in. There's a lot of free agent coaches out there that'll do the job, but it might be a time for a change because obviously coaches aren't meant to last 20 years. It's a revolving door.
Not going to lie to you, I could really see Mike Sullivan being fired next month in November. I'm not going to lie to you. Because I think that this team's going to look at the fact that they are off to a slow start and they're going to want to make a change, and maybe that change gets them into the playoffs. And sometimes it works. You saw it do it last year with the Oilers, but I don't know. The way I see it, I think that he might get let go in November if things don't improve.
And look,
see that, but I don't know.
Yeah, and look, when we won the Cup, I want to say it was 2016 when Mike Sullivan got brought up. Dan Bilesma was it Bilesma? I think Bilesma got fired. And then they brought up Mike Sullivan. They won the Stanley Cup that year. They went from being one of the worst teams in the league to being semi the same team. They had some changes in personnel, but that coaching change won them back-to-back cups. So, you still got Sidney Crosby, you still got Evgeny Malkin, who Malkin's playing at the top of his game right now. Jesse Puljujarvi is having himself a good season. You want guys like that energizing the room. You got to get maybe a new bench boss. But you might be right. November. I like Mike Sullivan, so I don't want to see him go. But you might be right. You might be seeing something. If something doesn't change, could be seeing a change in personnel by November.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Now, Carter, I forgot to tell you before the beginning of the episode. Can you pull up some Penguins player stats for me so you can read some of them off? I'm going to ask Seth one more question, then I'm going to come to you.
You think I'm not already prepared? I have this up. I also have something to ask Seth when you're done here. So
okay, no, you go now.
No. You're on your topic. I'm gonna let you roll. I got mine. Go.
Okay, all right. So, one more thing that I want to ask you before I turn it over to Carter is, if you were GM right now, what are changes you would make to the team? I know goaltending is your number one thing, but what are some other changes that you think may need to be done? And it may be too early to kind of do those, but What do you think?
I mean, it is still early, but it's never too early. I think something needs to happen on defense. Grzelcyk has been decent this year. Carl, I mean, there's no moving Carlson because I believe he's got a NMC, so there's not really moving him at least till the end of this year. There's a weird stipulation with his no movement clause, and then I mean, Tangers is playing decent, but he's still turning the puck over left and right. So his defense is really the main thing. I would love to go out and acquire Harley, but that's not happening. You got to get young guys like that to maybe bolster the blue line a little bit. I think for the most part, forwards, I think the Penguins have a very deep forward lineup. Beauvillier's been great. Glass has been great. Puyarvi, as I mentioned earlier, has been great. Eller's been great. So you get that bottom six, going off and having a good season. You got to get the guys in front of them to fire up a little bit. But I think really defense is the main thing because during that stretch of games in Canada, I was watching a little bit of it and just seeing the defense absolutely leave Blomqvist and Ned high and dry to the point where there's nothing that they can do at times. That should have been a shutout for Blomqvist during the Edmonton game. That was atrocious. And the fact that you're being outshot, I forgot what the number was after the first period, but it was I want to say 33 to 5 or something like that at some point. And that's on the defense at that point. You're allowing pucks to stay inside the zone. You need to get them out, and defense is not doing their job.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that, honestly, I think part of the reason why the goaltending has been very, besides Blomqvist, it's been kind of lackluster with Jarry is because I feel like a lot of the plays have been defenders just making big defensive faults. And that happens with every team, but you see a few turnovers, they become very noticeable when your team's on a big losing streak like the Penguins are right now. And again, I agree. That Oilers game should have been Blomqvist's game, but the Penguins in front of him just seemed to crumble. And I honestly, offense seemed to have dried up.
And to add to that, one more thing about that. So I mean, with Jarry, I was watching the game against Buffalo when. Sorry, got the Penguins game on behind me. I heard the announcers yelling, so I thought we might have scored. But two goals on 2 shots against Jarry is ridiculous. Those 2 shots are 2 that he should have had easily. Any competent goaltender would have. Oh, there's a fight. Okay, sorry. But any competent goaltender would have been able to stop those, and you shouldn't have to score 6 goals to win a game. You shouldn't have to score 6 goals to win. But I'll leave that at that.
100% agree with you. All right, Carter, I'll turn it over to you. You've been silent for almost 20 minutes now. Not silent, but kind of just been laying back, listening to us. What do you got?
God, it's a yap fest out there. No. So one of the biggest acquisitions the Penguins made this offseason, Rutger McGroarty. Now, I still have a sour taste in my mouth over this. But I never really talked to you about it. Seth, Rutger McGroarty, what are your thoughts on him? And what do you think he's going to bring to the Penguins organization? If you say 0 points through 4 games in the professional, or through 7 games professionally in the NHL and AHL, you'd be right.
I don't know how to feel about him yet. I'm still kind of sour because I really liked Braden Yeager and I wanted to do Yeager bombs every single time Yeager scored. But unfortunately, that's just not going to happen anymore. But no, I mean, I like his game. He's fast. He's clearly skilled. It just hasn't had the balances that he's needed to get. Once he gets one or two, I think he'll get going. I have high hopes for him. He's certainly going to be an exciting rookie for the Penguins, though, like I mentioned earlier, the Penguins are just so deep up front that it's going to be hard for him if he's hasn't put up a single point in both the AHL and the NHL. He's not getting up there. Now, he should be seeing first-line minutes on Wilkes-Barre, and I think he's on the second or third line in Wilkes-Barre, but he should be right up there with Poland. I feel like maybe a line change might do him some good, but I'm excited for him. I'm excited. He's still young, so.
I go to a lot of Phantoms games. I have not seen Rutger yet in person, but when I do see Rutger in person, I will get back to you and Carter on how this guy is, because I know Carter's gonna want to hear about this. But to wrap up this Penguins segment, Carter, I know we kind of talked about Malkin and Crosby a little bit on their stat line, but read off some stats here to kind of make Seth maybe feel a little bit better or worse about himself. I don't know.
I mean, you got Ryan Graves, who's got no points through 10 games.
He's a terrorist. He's also a terrorist.
Oh my
Him and Jarry are both terrorists.
Listen. He's one of your few players who's actually not negative on the plus minus, so we'll give him some credit there.
No, he doesn't deserve any credit whatsoever. He's horrible. He turned. The reason why, I forgot what game it was, but there was a game that I remember this vividly. He gets away with not getting called for a penalty, and then he goes not even 2 seconds later and slashes the fuck out of some guy, causes a penalty kill, and then they go down and score. And then later in that game, he passed the puck to the wrong team. They went down and scored because he's a fucking idiot. He's a terrorist.
Those are his only two penalties his only 2 penalty minutes on the year, so you can be a little happy about that.
I wish we'd be doing better if he were just in the penalty box.
Oh my god!
All right, I think you gotta be happy at Lars Eller and Ricard Raquel, both guys at 4 goals right now, but each have 2 assists as well.
Does that include Ricard Raquel's goal today?
No. So he's at 5.
With 5, sweet.
So he'll be at 5 now. I think you got to be happy with those guys. I think another guy you might be happy with, might be iffy with, Jesse Puljujarvi. I mean, you kind of brought him in for not too much, and he's got 5 points through 9 games, which, I mean, is not too shabby, especially because he's not getting top line minutes. Because what's he playing on, your second, third line?
Third.
Yeah. So if he's playing your third line, he's already at 5 points through 9 games. I think you got to be happy with that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, putting him on maybe the second line might do him some good, especially with Rust out. It might do him some good to get him some top 6 minutes. Yeah.
And then other than that, I think you got to obviously be happy with Malkin, who's got 14 points through 10 games. So looking like MVP Malkin right now. He's playing absolutely unreal. Sidney Crosby, I mean, he is older, and I mean, you always expect a lot out of Sidney Crosby. 7 points through 10 games, not the most ideal stat line for a lot of Penguins fans, but at the same time, Crosby doesn't always start the season off hot. Sometimes it takes him a little bit to kind of get his feet under him, but you know that Sidney Crosby's due for a couple 3-4 point nights in a season.
Oh yeah,
so
I mean he's got 2.
I would not be too worried.
So I'm happy.
He's got 2 tonight, so that's I think you got to be happy with some of these guys, and
I'm happy. I'm very happy with Drew O'Connor as well. I mean he's a guy that he can put him on the first line, you can put him on the third line. He's going to fit in and play really well. So he's one of the guys that I really like a lot. But yeah.
All right, let's move on from the Pittsburgh Penguins. We are going to talk about Carter's Winnipeg Jets. Their winning streak, their glorious 8-0 winning streak, has come to a close. And, we're not even really going to talk about the Jets win streak. I kind of want to talk about last night, mainly against the Leafs. Carter's not going to like that. But Carter did say that he has a story he wants to start us off with here. So, Carter, would you like to tell us that story?
Well, the story I am going to bring up is I feel like a lot of Jets fans probably knew that it was going to come to an end against the Toronto Maple Leafs, me being one of them. I didn't want to say it, but I kind of had a feeling. We have not beat the Toronto Maple Leafs in the last 6 games. Ever since Mark Scheifele said, is there anything better than beating the Leafs or something along those lines? Since then, we have gone 0-6 against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I was going to bring that up.
Completely cursing us. And yeah, it has not been a lot of fun in Jets land against the Toronto Maple Leafs. But I mean, hey, 8-game win streak to start the year. That's huge. That is half of the amount of wins that the San Jose Sharks had all of last season.
That is yeah. That is indeed half of what the Sharks had. Yeah. I mean, honestly, last night I thought the Jets played well. People will say that, they look at that game and be like, oh my God, that their winning streak's over. They're going to start losing. But I thought they played pretty well in that game. It was just the beginning that really kind of slumped the team. I think in the first, I think they were down 2-0 at the end of the first, or 1-0, and then they ended up being down 4-0 at one point. The fact that you made it 6-4 at the end and you wanted the 6th goal was an empty netter, I think is very good for the Jets. And also Kyle Connor last night had a hat trick. John Tavares also had a hat trick last night. But Carter, Connor's off to an insane start. How are you feeling as a Jets fan right now, seeing Connor play incredible?
He is our savior.
Oh, Connor Hellebuck was that.
No, it's Kyle Connor. It's always been Kyle Connor. He is off to such a good start. He had 2, almost 3 last night. Really helped us get over that hump, spark the comeback. He has been one of the most underrated goal scorers in the last couple years. He is absolutely elite with the puck. He's got 14 points through 9 games this year. He's almost at a goal a game. He is, I think, tied for second in goals, but there's like a lot of guys who have 8 goals, so it's not whatever. That's besides the point. But he has looked absolutely unreal. And I love Kyle Connor. He is probably by far my favorite Jet. He is so good, and I will never let Bruins fans forget that they had the chance to have him back in 2015.
They had a chance to have a lot of people back in 2015. They could have came out with Matt Barzal, Travis Konechny, and Kyle Connor, and that all 3 of those picks. Instead, all of them flumped. All 3 of them. So, yeah, the Jets, honestly, they lose and their streak is over, but I wouldn't be too mad about that. I believe they're still first in the NHL. They're still looking like a really good team. It's a matter of if you can bounce back from losing and blowing your streak like that. Seth, any thoughts on the Jets before we move on?
See, I was really rooting for the Jets last night. Fuck the Leafs. I mean, I was really rooting for you guys. I know a couple guys who are Jets fans, and they kept on saying that they're never going to lose again. They're going to go 82-0. So they might have cursed you, but no, I was really rooting for the Jets. I mean, it's incredible what they've done. It shows Rutger what he's missing out on. A winning team, but but no, the Jets look great this year. Hellebuck is having himself another good, very, very good start. I wish I were a Jets fan right now. The Canadian Jets, that is, not the American Jets. The Canadian Jets.
Oh, those ones are
I was
horrible.
gonna say, are you are your friends fans of New York Jets or the Winnipeg Jets? Because
Winnipeg.
I don't know. Yeah, New York's not looking that great right now.
It's bad.
Yeah. I want to wrap up this segment with the Jets with a stat from Bleacher Report. Guys, believe it or not, for the 107th consecutive year, we are not going to see a team that has not lost a game or a team that has not won a game.
No! What a stat!
Isn't that crazy? Oh, my God. I saw that and I cringed. But let's move on from that to two teams, one from the West, one from the East, that have won 4 straight games. And these are teams that we have not talked about yet through the first few episodes of this season. It is the Carolina Hurricanes and the Vegas Golden Knights. We're going to start off with the Carolina Hurricanes, who have won their last 4 games. Now, the interesting thing about Carolina is that they've been playing a lot of teams on the road, most notably. They, alike with the Pittsburgh Penguins, have been on that Western Canada road trip and have played a lot of those teams. And instead of losing all of them, they have won all of them. They beat Edmonton 3-2 in a close one in overtime. By the way, I streamed that game, watched with Nordic. That was a 10 out of 10 game. By the way, there is going to be one on Thursday, Halloween. So stay tuned for that. That will be announced when this podcast comes out. Shameless plug. I don't care that you don't care, okay? There's some fans that care.
No,
then
they
they
don't.
beat Calgary 4-2. Then they beat Seattle 4-1. Then they beat Vancouver 4-3 last night. So that is 4 wins in a row. And that is actually 5 wins out of their last 9, I believe, to start the season. 6 wins out of their last 8. So you can tell I can't do math to start the season. So they are off to a really good start so far. First off, is this surprising in any way? I'm not terribly surprised. I did say they would get worse, but I didn't know they would be this good to start the season. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, they got rid of a lot of guys during the offseason. I think we all were thinking, okay, this team's going to take a step back. They're not going to be as competitive. I mean, losing Gensel was big. And then, I mean, losing some other guys as well. But, I mean, you got Marty with 11 points, Fish with 8, Gossespierre with 7 points. So you got guys contributing and guys putting points up. You're not seeing anyone who's, it's not a huge disparity in points by a player, which is wild. My guy Jarvo, I really wish the Penguins went out and acquired him because I love Seth Jarvis. Not just because we share the same name, but because he's actually like a really good player. I mean, he's 3-3 on the season, so I mean, for the most part, I mean they've got a lot of guys who are contributing night in and night out. So, it might be a dark horse for the Cup this year.
Yeah, you like to see it. You kind of took Carter's job there, reading off some of the stat lines. But again, yeah, Carolina, they do look really good to start the year, and I think a lot of their guys are contributing very well. Carter, one thing Seth didn't do is talk about the goaltending. Can you talk about the goaltending for us?
I would absolutely love to talk about goaltending because you know how much I love stats. Taking a look at the 2 goalies, each of them have played 4 games, both holding a 3-1 record. The only thing is Freddie Anderson seems to be outplaying Kochetkov. Freddie Anderson's posting a 1.48 goals against average compared to Kachechov's 2.77, and Anderson has a 9.41 save percentage compared to an 8.94 out of Kochetkov. Both have pretty much faced an average of about 25 shots a night. 25, 26 shots a night. I don't know much about the scoring chances for the 2, if they've been high quality, and that's what's caused Kachechov's numbers to drop. I will say, though, the one stat Kochetkov is winning in is the points category. He's got an assist on the year, which is beating his goaltender counterpart, Freddie Anderson. But, yeah, the goaltending has been really solid. Out of Freddie Anderson, and I mean you can't be too mad about Kochetkov. I mean this is his 2nd year in the NHL. Last year he was classified as a rookie. So yeah, I mean you can't be too mad at that from your goaltending. And Freddie Anderson still proving that he is an elite goaltender, and I feel like a lot of guys kind of wrote him off when he was let go out of Toronto, and he's really found his stride back in Carolina. So really making the Leafs seem kind of dumb for letting him go, and now they're in a consistent goaltender carousel, and Carolina Hurricanes have their number 1 guy.
Yeah, so both goalies are playing really well. I pulled up some advanced analytics. Frederik Andersen's actually second in goals saved above expected with a 7.1. The only goalie that is better is Lucas Dostal. Keep in mind, though, Andersen has only played 4 games out of Carolina's 8, so Kochetkov has shared the other 4, which really shows that they do have a good, solid tandem there. When you look in terms of high danger chances, actually Kochetkov actually leads that stat line. He is 8th in in the league, averaging .875 saves on high danger shots. So cool numbers there from both goalies. Both of them played very well. They do end their month of October with a home opener or a home game against Boston. So that is obviously always a very exciting game whenever you're playing Boston. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Carolina can play out. They're on a really good streak right now and winning in that West Coast road trip. I remember last year when they had that stretch, I think they lost a lot of them and it wasn't looking so good. That was at the time that Philadelphia was actually in a playoff spot and I think was second in the Metropolitan Division because of that. So, just a little bit of a throwback. Let's move on to Vegas now. So the Vegas Golden Knights are the team on the Western Conference end that has won 4 straight games. Vegas already kind of got off to a pretty good start, started losing some games there, but they've kind of been a little bit different. They've been on this homestand, playing against some Western Conference competition, division rivals, and then they had a game against Ottawa in there as well. So they lost the last couple of games. They actually lost 3 in a row, losing to Washington, Tampa Bay, and Florida before going on this homestand. They have now beaten LA 6-1 in what was absolutely a slaughter of a game. They beat Ottawa 6-4 in what was seemingly a close game, but Vegas, I think, scored like 3 unanswered goals to win that one. They beat San Jose 7-3, which is not that impressive. Then they beat Calgary 5-0 in a shutout last night. So I think that Vegas has played well down the stretch here. Again, another team 7-2-1. Are you guys kind of surprised by how the Golden Knights have played to start the season? I'm kind of not, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of like you expect this out of Vegas, and you always kind of know it in the back of your head, but you say that they're not going to do well, and then they just come out right out of the gate and prove you wrong. Because that's what Vegas does. That's what they've done for the last few years. Is they seem to just everyone writes them off in the off season, and then boom, they're right there.
I'm going to disagree with you. So I don't think a lot of people wrote them off this year because they've got a really good team. They've always had a really good team. I hate Vegas because they're a bunch of bandwagons, and I could go on. They abuse the LTIR. I'm sure Mark Stone was started having his shoulder hurt a little bit after Shea Theodore signed that extension. But no, I don't like Mark Stone because he's a bitch. But he's leading the team in points right now. Jack Eichel right behind him. So, again, same thing with the Hurricanes, although a little bit inflated because they face teams like LA, like the Sharks. Right, they're going to put up 7 goals a night, 6 goals a night. So you're it's going to be pad the stats regardless. I think we all hope that they don't do well. But now they're putting together a pretty solid start to the season, and we'll see how this season unfolds. See how many people go down with injuries and get put on LTIR because they're injured with huge quotation marks, to build a team $20 million over the cap for the playoffs. So we'll see.
LTIR, known terrorist of the Vegas Golden Knights. We got many terrorists on many teams, but the Vegas Golden Knights has LTIR. All right, Carter, you want to read off some of those stats from this Golden Knights team? How have they been doing so far? I know Jack Eichel is silently putting up a pretty good campaign so far.
Yeah, both him and Mark Stone have looked absolutely unreal. This is going to be a deadly kind of combination.
He's not hurt?
No, surprisingly, no. He's put all the LTIR rumors to rest. when you rest for 60 games out of the last 2 seasons, not even combined in like each season, you're probably going to be pretty healthy in that third season. So, Mark Stone, he's got 5 goals, 13 assists for 18 points to start the year. Absolutely tearing it up, almost averaging 2 points per game. Jack Eichel silently also. I kind of touched base on him a couple episodes ago or last episode. He's got 3 goals, 13 assists for 16 points. Ivan Barbashev also having a really sneaky year. He's got 12 points with 7 goals on the year through 10 games played. So he's looking really good. Pietrangelo on that backhand. New addition from last year, Tomas Hertl. He's got 10 points through 10 games, which is shocking. Their new signing, Shea Theodore, he's got 8 points through 9 games. And they're even getting some help from those bottom 2 lines. Keegan Colasar, he's got 7 points through 10 games as well. The team's looking pretty good right now. They're getting scoring from a lot of different places, a lot of different levels, from the defensive side, from the offensive side. Touching base on their goaltending here, they're in kind of a tricky spot here. Aiden Hill has looked good, but at the same time has also kind of been bailed out a lot by the Vegas's high power offense. He's got 4 wins, 2 losses through his 6 games. He's got a 3.2 goals against average and an .878 save percentage, which is very rare to see for a goalie with 4 wins on the year. But they also have almost undefeated. He has not lost in regulation. Ilya Samsonov, he's got a 2.2 goals against average and a .932 save percentage. He's looked absolutely unreal. Aiden Hill also does have a shutout over Ilya Samsonov. But yeah, both goalies have been playing pretty well, but it seems to be that Aiden Hill's kind of looking a little bit more bailed out by that high power Vegas offense.
And I do want to jut in here real quick. Pavel Dorofeyev, or however you pronounce his last name, he's having seems like a breakout season. I mean, he had a 40 points through 77 games played in his career. But I mean, 7 points in 10 games ain't too shabby. He was primed for a breakout year this year. Also, NHL 24 franchise mode legend.
No, he is a franchise mode legend. Carter, how many games has Samsonov played?
He's only played in 4.
Okay. All right. So wrapping up this segment, the Hurricanes and the Golden Knights, as I said, are on the same amount of wins. Which winning streak ends the soonest? Now, I want to read off the next 3 games for each team before you guys answer that question. Carolina plays Boston on Thursday the 31st, then Washington, and then Philadelphia. Vegas plays the Kings tomorrow on Wednesday. Then they play Utah and, as it takes a second here to load, the Oilers. So whose streak ends first?
God, the best team out of those 3 or 6 that you mentioned is Boston, but
they don't even look good either right now.
I mean, yeah, they're decent, but I think Vegas. I think it's a trap game against Utah. I think Utah is gonna come out and win.
I think Vegas, but I think that Vegas, like, they're playing the Kings, who they beat earlier on in their win streak. I think LA is gonna get some revenge on them. Carter, what do you think?
I was about to say Vegas. I think LA at home, or they're playing LA on the road. So I'm going to take Vegas to lose on the 30th.
All right. Okay, so let's move on from that to news. And Carter, are you going to leave?
I got a dip. I got hockey, so I got to go.
He's got hockey.
Beer league legend.
Not beer league. I got a junior practice tonight, so I got to go play.
Oh, sweet.
Let me just ask you something real quick, Carter. Do you have any trending players or anyone that you want to shout out for trending players?
Kyle Connor.
Kyle Connor? Okay.
And I will bring up Matvey Mishkov is better than Connor Bedard. That is what I am leaving this on.
Oh, my God. All right. Well, Carter, thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Nord. Seth, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. And
shame you couldn't stay the entire time.
Oh, I know. You guys are gonna have some fun topics to discuss when I go. So, anyways, have a good night, boys.
Hey, have a good one.
All right. now that Carter's gone, I absolutely hate when that guy reads off. No, I'm kidding. All right, so news around the NHL. So we already mentioned Tristan Jarry on the AHL conditioning loan. We already mentioned Shea Theodore in the Frozen Frenzy last episode. Let's start off with Alexis Lafreniere of the New York Rangers, who signed a 7-year, $7.5 million contract per Puckpedia. Lafreniere originally was supposed to be signed to an 8-year contract, but they lowered the year down so they could get him below Uri Slavkovsky, who is on a $7.6 million deal. Now, Seth, you are a Rangers hater. It has been well known that you do not like the Rangers at all. We have talked about it on this podcast before, but how are you feeling on this deal? Do you love it or do you hate it?
I think it's good for him. I mean, he got his bag. Definitely had a slow start to his career. Drafted. He was drafted what, first or is it second?
First overall in 2020.
So, I mean, he had a little bit of a slow start to his career, but then found his rhythm last year. And I think $7 million for someone who found the rhythm last year. I mean, it's kind of wild, but I mean, good for him. He got his bag. I hope he just kind of falls off and gets traded, and then does great somewhere else. But no, I think it's a good deal for him. I think it's a little bit of an overpay for the Rangers. I mean, maybe a 6, maybe. But I mean, with the cap going up, it's going to change things next year. So we'll see. But good for him.
I think it's a perfect deal for Lafreniere. You see he's improving. He already has, I think, 8 points through his first few games. Last year, he made the jump from 30 points to 50 points. So he is getting better. He is progressing. I think when we look at that deal a few years down the road, you're going to say, yeah, we love that. We love that 7.5 under $8 million for Lafreniere there. So I want to bring up something that is interesting with the New York Islanders. So we probably could have talked about this in its own segment, but it is kind of news because it does have some things involved there with news. The Islanders are currently 3-3-2. I don't believe they're playing right now. Oh, they are playing right now. They're down 2-0 to the Ducks, so maybe that makes this segment better. But you can insert your laughter here. There is apparently some reported disagreements between Patrick Waugh and Lou Lamoriello that has been reaching some headlines and is leaving some Islanders fans a little bit concerned. So I'm going to talk about that and talk about some of the good and some of the bad with that. So I'm going to read an article here from, I think it's Fisherman Hockey is what the report is. So credit to them for this article. But ahead of the game between the Florida Panthers on Saturday, Lamoriello addressed the media to announce a series of transactions after the team moved Anthony Duclair to LTIR. Liam Foudy, who played with the team for a couple of games, has been loaned to Bridgeport. They called up Pierre Engvall and Hudson Fasching from Bridgeport, and they signed Matt Martin to a 1-year contract off of his PTO. Lamoriello cited in a press conference before the game that he appreciates Martin's leadership and presence around the team. Now, while Lamoriello was explaining roster moves, Patrick Waugh was not made available to the media before the game, which is a violation of NHL rules. It's unusual enough for several of the team's beat reporters to post about their denied request to speak to Isles head coach on social media. So the game transpires. It's disaster. They lose 6-3. They blow a 3-0 lead. It is a awful, awful, awful loss. And I want to get into that in a second here, but you see Patrick Waugh's quotes after the game on Marty coming back to the lineup and Pierre Engvall. He said this, quote, "Having Marty back in the lineup, he brings leadership, experience, and that physicality we all need. And Lou thinks it's important to us. And Pierre, we know what he did for this team in the past 2 years, and Lou thought it was a good moment for him to be back and play." So we're going to take a little bit of a few things out of these texts and what I just said. So starting off with the fact that Roy didn't even talk about Waugh. I'm struggling right now. What is happening?
You're good. It's 8:00 on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, starting off with Waugh, not even talking before the game. First off, that's against the rules. That makes you kind of think, and it's unusual for him to not be talking before the game, but that might make you think that he doesn't agree with the moves that have been made with the Islanders. And then you see after the game, him, talking about Matt Martin and Pierre Engvall, he doesn't say we think it is important for us. He says Lou thinks it's important for us. And Lou thought it was a good moment for him to be back and play instead of we thought it was a good moment. So, the phrasing left an impression that these were moves that he does not agree with. And I think that it's made some Islanders fans a little bit concerned. But I don't know. I think there's two ways that you can look at that, but I wanna ask Seth what he thinks of those comments, and that disagreement between these two players. These two staff members. Do you think that this happens often, or is this just a once in a while thing with the Islanders, or could this be a problem moving forward?
I think it could be a problem moving forward, especially seeing that the phrasing that Patrick Waugh used, saying it was Lou's idea. Now, to answer your first question, I think it's something that happens often with any team. I think for the most part, general managers would love to have their coaches in trade conversations or signing conversations, so that way they know what they're doing with their team. But
Right.
If you're phrasing this was Lou's idea, obviously you're not agreeing with said idea, and you're putting the responsibility on Lou and not on oneself. Saying like, hey, look, like, yeah, I mean, it probably wasn't the smartest thing, but I mean, if you're signing, what was Martin's deal? Was it a 1 year like minimum deal?
It was. I can get you that. It's a 1 year, league minimum deal.
Yeah. So I mean, he brings the. I see where Lou is going. He brings the veteran experience, but I mean, it might be time for fresh blood. I mean, he's been with that team for what seems like forever. And he was with in the AHL last year, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, might be not time for some new blood. And I'm not. I don't know a lot about the situation to put my 2 cents in, but just from an outsider perspective, I mean, it's something to keep an eye on moving forward. I don't think Patrick Waugh is going to get fired. I don't think he can, especially with the pedigree that he has built for himself and what he's done with the team. But you can only do so much when your general manager sleeps during the trade deadline.
You got a good point there. Honestly, I think it may just be like a once in a while thing with the Islanders. Again, you said it does happen often. I feel like it happens more often than people think, where the coach is not going to agree with a move that a GM makes. I think that it happens a lot. It's a business. And, I mean, like you're going to be talking with the coach about certain moves, but there's going to be some things that the GM wants to do, but the coach does not agree with. Sometimes the GM won't do those things because of the coach. Sometimes the GM does not care about the coach. It really kind of depends, to be honest with you. But regardless, we'll see where that goes. There's not really a lot there right now that I'm too concerned with. But we'll see if that develops later on. A couple of signings that I want to talk about before we get into some trending players and a few other headlines that kind of pissed me off. Jake McCabe signed a 5-year, $4.51 million deal. It is on a deferred contract, by the way. The contract actually values at $23.5 million over 5 years, but includes deferred money that will be paid out between years 2 and 3 of the contract. So not like the Jarvis deal where it was deferred over like a 9th year or whatever, but still good deal there for McCabe and the Maple Leafs. McCabe's been a good defenseman for them for the last couple of seasons, and I think they were talking about locking him up to a deal for a while. Getting him down to lower than a 5x5, I think, is pretty good money there. And then Alexei Toropchenko has signed a 1-year, $1.7 million extension with the St. Louis Blues. So a nice little depth forward there, locked up by St. Louis for one more season. All right, so Seth, one thing that I want to talk about before we get into trending players. Have you seen the sign that was made by a fan that's to Steven Stamkos on his return to Nashville, where it says, number 91, you're not welcome in Tampa, you quit on us? Have you seen that sign? Because I can send it
I
to you
have
right now.
not, but that's the most brain dead shit that I think I've ever seen.
Let me
like
just send it to you real quick so you can see it. I sent it to you on Snapchat.
All right, let's say it.
It is so brain dead. Like you don't even know what you're talking about.
I mean, yeah, he looks like a dumbass. So, look, I think I mean I've got a couple friends. Oh, I got a friend or two who are fans of Tampa, right? And they knew that it was on the fault of management that Stamkos didn't get a deal. Stamkos wanted to stay in Tampa. I mean, that team. I mean, imagine Stamkos, Gensel on the line. That would feed families.
Right.
But I know, you want to get younger. You want to be able to compete. And compete for years to come. But that's the most brain dead shit that I think I've ever seen. Like, get out of your. I don't know how anyone could say that. I mean, he's one of the best captains I think that the league has seen in a while, other than obviously Sid. But like he's so unselfish. He wanted to stay. He wanted to finish out his career in Tampa, and he said in a report that if Gretzky can't finish his career on one team, then who is he to be able to finish his career on one team?
Yeah.
So I think that's stupid, and that fan should be banned from all NHL games because he's too stupid. But that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think that it's really stupid. He's done so much for that team, won them 2 Stanley Cups. It's probably the greatest player to ever play for that franchise, and that right there screams casual to me, casual hockey fan. So yeah, I thought that would be something cool to talk about. To wrap up, Seth, I didn't ask you about this, but are there any trending players around the league that you have seen that have been making some headlines that have impressed you or have disappointed you in a way?
I'm gonna keep out of the Penguins' pocket here. I mean, Seth Jarvis, obviously he's had a pretty good season thus far. I mean, other than that, I'm not going to lie to you. I've only really watched Penguins hockey. I will say though, McDavid not having a great start to his season. He actually just got injured. Was it last night?
He did. Yes, he is injured. So that, yeah, I don't blame you for not watching any games. I probably should have told you beforehand. That is my fault. But again, I will say this: McDavid is hurt. The Oilers are going to miss him for sure. He's had kind of a little bit of a rough start to the season. One guy that has really impressed me is Cole Caulfield. I think he has 9 goals through the first couple of games here, so he has looked really good. Again, Nico Hischier scoring at a really good rate as well. I think there have been a lot of impressions there too. And overall, there's been a few other players that have impressed me. But we're going to wrap up this episode here of episode 77 of the NORDCAST. It's kind of a shorter episode. Honestly, it's like the shortest episode Seth has ever been on. I think every single episode we've done has been at least an hour and a half. So, Seth,
it's Jack and Carter's fault.
It is Jack and Carter's fault. If Carter was still here, we'd still be going. But Seth, thank you so much for coming on. It's always great when you come on. Is there anything you want to plug anywhere where the people can find you?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Instagram at the Seth Chason. You can also catch my radio shows Friday night, 9 p.m. to 11, Night Owls, and then same thing on Tuesdays, 11 to 12 for Tuesdays Tunes, my radio shows. And then obviously keep it tuned to Fighting Owl Vision for Hartford sports broadcasts. But other than that, no, I mean, thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure coming on. Would love to get back on soon. We need to make sure that there's all 3 of us, all three of you guys on the show. I don't think I've ever had a show with all 3 of you guys.
I don't think you have.
It's wild.
Yeah, you have been as of right now, you have been on the most times of anyone. There's only been one other person that's been on 3 times, and you've been on 4 now. So yeah, it's kind of crazy that you have never been on with all 3 of us, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, well, next time you know that you all 3 are going to be together, let me know and I'll come on.
That might even be next week or next year. So
Who knows?
we'll see. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the NORDCAST. Thank you guys for watching or listening. Watch with Nordic is tomorrow on Thursday. Carter is not here to yell at me. That's a shameless plug. All right. We'll see you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening to yet again another episode of the NORDCAST. If you enjoyed, please subscribe down below or follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you want to follow us on TikTok, we are at NORDCAST. If you want to follow us on Instagram or Twitter, follow at NORDCAST_. That'll do it for this episode. I'm Nordic. Thanks for listening from all the crew, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.